everybody. I'm Bill Inman with SmartSearch. I'm here with Sylvia Dahlby as well today. Hi, Sylvia. How are you?
I am excellent, Bill. Thanks for having me.
It's glad to have you here. Actually, I'm thrilled to be here with you today because we're talking about a very important topic internally at SmartSearch and very important to the wider market, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's an area you're really experienced with, so we're super thrilled that you're our internal champion for these initiatives. So I'm sure you're excited to talk about these things today too, right?
Very much so.
Great. Well, I have a couple questions to ask you about our DEI initiatives, and I know you have some fantastic responses. You're going to talk a little bit about the campaigns and the initiatives we have running internally, but also what we plan to do. So, want to jump in?
Sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, go ahead.
In a way, the whole idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion is baked into my cake, right? It's part of my DNA. I have a mixed race family. And here in the Hawaiian Islands, this is the only place in the US where mixed race marriages were never illegal. So when I moved to Los Angeles, this is like way back in the 80s, I got a job with an LA-based advertising agency. And it was a little bit of an eye-opener because while the agency that I worked for was a very diverse group and certainly a lot of women and a very dynamic group of people, the companies that we served were all like big defense contractors. And many times I would go see a client, like with my agency colleagues, I would not only be the youngest person in the room, I was often the only woman in the room, and I was invisible. And this was right around the time when the EEO compliance was coming down very hard on defense contractors. And so sitting there in the room and listening to essentially these old white dudes talk about how they were going to be compliant, and I know they're just paying lip service to it, right? They're trying to fit some quota or other. So this was a big eye opener for me, and it was almost like I was invisible too, like being a woman and a young person. So I kind of got on this mission. I got involved with the SHRM organization and how they were addressing the compliance, certainly, but I also joined Los Angeles Advertising Women, which was a club that was formed because it was back in the 50s and women were not even allowed to join the ad club. So I kind of stepped in and decided I need to advocate this. I need to advocate pay equity and having women have a place at that table and be taken seriously. So we're still here, trying to work on those things, and I'm still involved with SHRM and had produced a couple of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs as recently as 2018, like right before the pandemic hit, and we stopped the in-person meetings. So it's still going on, still doing this work. But I feel like while we've moved the needle forward, we still need to do more, and we need to keep doing it.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to do. Certainly the pandemic has shifted mindsets, and we saw a lot of social activity programs and incidents during the pandemic, which are great because they're fueling a lot of change. I don't think I've mentioned this to you, but the reason I'm in human resources / staffing is because my mom was VP of HR at a stock brokerage company. She was the first female vice president in the stock brokerage industry on the West Coast. And being a single mom, I kind of followed her. She was a leader in that industry, and lo and behold, here I am in the industry today because of that. And also as the dad of a single daughter, one daughter. She just got her first boyfriend, or first long-term boyfriend. So single's the wrong thing to use there. But I don't want anything to limit her ability in the world to succeed. So thank you, Sylvia, for fighting the good fight a couple of decades ago when things were a lot different. There's more opportunity now, but we're not done. So let's talk about DEI initiatives and what benefits do you see that they provide to companies when they're really engaged?
You know, that is just a really fascinating question because when you think about it, we see diversity operating and benefiting businesses successfully everywhere, right? Like, for example, you diversify your product line, right? You diversify your marketing, you diversify your financial portfolio. So in business and finance, diversity has always been strength, right? It's always a strength. So why don't we see that? And we see it in nature, right? If you look around in the natural world, diversity again is strength. It's Mother Nature's hedge against, calamities and it's everywhere around us. But in the business world, when it comes to human resources, you get back to that idea that it's, lip service, right? We want people that are like us, right? It's kind of this natural tendency to look for people to hire that are like us. And the big benefit there is if you hire people that are not like you get that broader diversity of ideas, right? For anywhere in business that it matters, right? For developing solutions. And diversity is strength. So in all aspects of business, that philosophy needs to be applied. And we mentioned the pandemic has changed things. People are really shifting their priorities now and starting to realize what's really important. There's the great resignation, but it's more like the great reprioritization. And women are reprioritizing their lives because they were affected by the pandemic. Businesses are reprioritizing and embracing things like remote work, which actually opens up a more diverse talent pool to people. Like you think about people with mobility challenges, if you don't have the proper ADA compliance to accommodate those workers, well, when they're working from home, they've got all that infrastructure at the ready to go, right? And you can now tap into a more diverse talent pool. So I think there are a lot of benefits that people are finally kind of waking up to, like they need to do this to remain competitive, right? And to be more creative and adaptable as the world around them continues to evolve and change.
Critical. As I know, looking back when I was a youngster and being a driven, I guess, male, I tried to do everything myself and take control of the entire organization. I've been in many startups. And boy, did I learn fast that it takes a diversity of opinion. And, people who are like each other tend to like each other. So that's an affliction to some degree because you surround yourself with people who are like yourself. Fortunately, I grew up with a diverse background, high school, through school and all that. And I'm really lucky for that. And having played basically 2 college sports, I had a diversity of people that I was affiliated with. But not everybody has that luck, or some people are just kind of in their own box. But it is very exciting to get these different opinions. And in business, I know being an executive and somebody who's been in startups for a long time, boy, does it help to get different opinions and to see the brilliance that comes from these different areas. So what do we need to do to ensure diversity, equity, inclusion is accelerated now? We've hit a good point, but how do we do more, be more, and move this faster?
The answer to that question is really simple. It's give them a voice. Gather more diverse voices and give women, people of color, people from diverse backgrounds a seat at that table with the higher levels of management and give these people a voice. You mentioned human resources. Historically, this has been a pink collar profession. And I think that's one reason why HR has been undervalued in a lot of ways, right? Because there's a lot of women running the show there. And depending on the culture of the company, they see it as a cost center and not a profit center. So women in the workplace need a voice. Minorities in the workplace, people of color, people with disabilities, people that are different, right? Give them a voice and bring those voices to the forefront. That doesn't necessarily mean they're right all the time, right? But you have to hear them. You have to hear the voices and get that diversity of opinion when you're making mission critical decisions about where the business is going to go.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think we're seeing a lot more consideration of the different opinions. And it's pretty amazing that actually you're our diversity champion here at SmartSearch and you're from Hawaii, because it is truly, first of all, I use nature as an example, and what a better place to take in nature and be inspired by it, because you just walk out your door. You talked about last week how you were visiting the volcano. Even though I'm in Los Angeles and it's quite sunny here, I don't get to see things like that. So Hawaii is a great place to develop that foundational mindset, I'm sure. So, but SmartSearch, we're working diligently, and really we always have. You've been here for a while now. It's a company that's one of the oldest HR technology companies in the applicant tracking space. We're becoming a platform, becoming global, growing immensely. So can you talk a little bit about what we're doing, since you've been here for so many years, been fighting this good fight, and now to see where we are? Why don't you tell everybody what we're doing at SmartSearch at this point?
Well, thanks. We've always done stuff, right? We've always been very committed to diversity in the workplace and EEO compliance, but supporting outreach programs. So it kind of starts with the job, right? When you have an open job, how do you promote that job to those diverse talent pools? So we had ways of mapping the job to, say, a campaign, right? Like if you wanted to do an outreach to a diverse pool of schools or professional associations, right? Like the Society of Women Engineers. So we had built-in mechanisms for mapping a job to a diversity program so that you could measure your result, right? And see how you were doing on meeting goals and initiatives that you set for yourself. So it kind of started with the job. It also dovetailed into the candidate experience. So when the candidates were applying for the job, at the very basic level, we were collecting information, right? Whether they were a minority, a female, a veteran, a disabled veteran, and gathering this information, again, for reporting purposes so that you could see how well you were doing, right, on attracting a diverse pool of candidates. And of course, you know, the almighty government reporting capability. So we have the ability to store this information, and it's sensitive information. So it's kind of kept in a secure area so that not everybody has access to it. And when you're presenting candidates to hiring managers, that information is not visible, but the HR people and the recruiters could track it and manage it. But more importantly, to support the outreach campaigns, you could build those pipelines within the SmartSearch environment, right? So if you went to, say, a historically Black college and you got a bunch of students in there, you could put them in the bucket and then do some outreach and cultivating relationships with the campus and the students and the alumni and anybody else that you wanted to tap into that talent pool for recruiting, referrals, etc. So this is kind of where we've been. Recently, we've taken it up a notch. We have added a layer of AI capability to the search component so that when you're searching through your database, you put in various skills and criteria, and the system does not recognize anything like race or gender or anything that would even give away those elements, so that when you find your candidate result, the candidate information, their contact information and their name is actually hidden, right? So you're really, it kind of levels out the way that the candidates are presented, because you're not even looking at their resume, you're looking at the AI breakdown of their skills, which is homogenized, right? And so that takes some of the unconscious bias out of the candidate review, right? Like you're looking basically apples to apples. You can't even see their resume itself has its own personality, if you will, right? So this AI search result kind of masks that. Like you look at the skills in the homogenized iteration of the candidate's profile. And even when you make adjustments, the system is ignoring anything that would give away things that might lead to unconscious or conscious bias. And then I'm very excited that we're taking that to the next level. We're partnering up with an outfit, parsing of resumes that will, quote unquote, debias the resume. So this is not even related to the AI search component, that now you get resumes in there and it levels out the playing field. It strips away all of the hints or any indication as to that person's gender, nationality, anything that would lead to any kind of prejudice or bias that the recruiters, I mean, hey, we're human, right? You know, we are going to be inclined to hire people we like. And when you think about it, the very act of recruiting is an act of discrimination, because you're trying to discriminate between all of the applicants and find the one who's the right one. But you need to base that on the skills and how effective they're going to be on the job and fit into the organization. And you can't allow your personal prejudices to get in the way of making a true value judgment. So I think the resume debiaser is going to take it up to another level to help increase the efficiency of our diversity recruiting capabilities.
It is exciting to see how that last point you made, how technology is being utilized. It's at a point where it can take something as broadly used and unstructured as a resume, and now we can turn it into something that has structure, but also takes out a lot of the emotion, the debiasing of it. So it's an exciting time for us here.
That's a good way to put it, the emotion, right? Like the personal layer that you put on.
Yeah, as good as we are, we all have a lens, and this will help to remove that so we can see the skill set, the talent behind that piece of paper, the digitized piece of paper.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, let me also add that you're going to be doing a series of DEI interviews with thought leaders, and we're excited about that. You're the right person here at SmartSearch to do that for us. You've come from that space for many years, and also you know our system so well. So we're excited about you taking on that thought leadership media as well, Sylvia.
Yeah, very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can tell.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, well, it's an exciting time here at SmartSearch. We're going through a revolution. Our applicant tracking application is becoming a platform. We're growing. We have a new team and a lot of excitement. And of course, now we can do what really matters, which is bring these initiatives, help these initiatives push forward and make a change in the world, which is what we're all about. We really truly are. So Sylvia Dahlby, she's a senior member of the SmartSearch business development team. As she stated she's lucky enough to be based in Hawaii. So she's about 3 hours behind me in aloha to you in LA. And Sylvia, we'll hear from you again. Thank you for everybody for being a part of this update, if you will, this preview of what we have going in DEI at SmartSearch. Sylvia, thanks again.
Thank you, Bill.
We'll see everybody soon.
Aloha.